Hello, my name is Chuck Simpson, and I want to give you a real quick backstory. Going all the way back into the last century, I was born in the early 1960s and grew up initially in a town called Woodbury, New Jersey. Now, my quick disclaimer is I'm not a pastor, I'm not a student of theology, never have been. In fact, I never even went to college. Let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick. I'll take you through a quick trip down memory lane. Here we go. My father left. That's him right there in the second picture. When I was 2 years old and my little brother was basically a newborn. We were raised by our newly single mom, which was real rare back in the 60s. That's her in the top left corner. We raised by her. She worked very hard and took great care of us. We lived near Bell Lake in an area of Woodbury that at the time was considered the projects. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been up that way in decades, but we didn't feel, we didn't feel any different than anybody else. We were happy. We always had food. We always could play outside. Our mother took real good care of us, even though we had a lot of babysitters when we were little. We had a good life coming up. In fact, I remember certain things, and I guess it ends up being more about food than anything else. But do they still make SpaghettiOs? Just thinking about that makes me hungry, but that was my absolute favorite when I was a kid. Mix that with some grilled cheese and tomato soup in a Campbell's can. And every once in a while, mom would give us a special treat when she made hot dogs and cut it up in little pieces and put a little squirt of mustard and ketchup next to it on our plate. Then we might have got some potato puffs if it was a really good week. But what I remember most of all about that was the pork and beans. If you remember, it might even still be like that today. Uh, Pork and beans had this little chunk of fat in it. There was only one piece in each can, and my brother and I used to bicker over who got that every once in a while. Sometimes he'd win, sometimes I would. But long story shorter, my mother remarried when I was 7, and we moved to Vineland, New Jersey. And the best part about that, where I grew up, is within a couple of years, I had a new baby brother and finally a little sister. So definitely good times. Anyway, at my age, new emotions start to kick in that I never had before. So when I think back at different things that have happened in my life, I have a lot of smiles and I have a lot of, mixed feelings. But overall, and trust me, this isn't going to be a sob story. A couple years ago, I guess is when I noticed it first, watching something on Netflix, and I got caught up in the story. I know it's just Hollywood, but suddenly I just felt affected by the emotions of the character. If something good happened, I felt, I was getting into it. I was smiling, I was tense, leaning forward. I was good. And then of course, when something bad happened, I could feel that too. And I caught myself many times as a character got bad news or was going through a tough time that I actually felt off. Even it's embarrassing to say it, but I got a little teary-eyed at times. Uh, my point is, we all change. We go through life at different times, at different ages, and we feel and desire different things, but change is inevitable. In fact, as I think about it, there's a couple things I think about, and I'll just read them to you real quick as I switch slides here. I actually had a ring made probably, I don't know, 20 years ago. Named it Choices, as you can clearly see. And I used to wear that as a reminder that no matter what I encountered, whether it's good or bad, I could either react or I could respond. It could either be positive, it could be negative. But that ring was a reminder that I had choices. If you think about a couple of things I've heard over the years, one of them is if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And the other one is a meme actually that I found somewhere that I've reposted multiple times that says 3 C's in life: choices, chances, changes. You must take a chance or your life will never change. That sunk in and made a lot of sense. In fact, I guess it's been about a month ago now, I was with James Malinchak out in Vegas. We were doing a mastermind, and he said something that just popped into my head like, wow, that really is true, as simple as it sounds. What he said was transformation begins with awareness. Isn't that the truth? If you take a really good look in the mirror, if you were to decide right then and there that you are meant for more, now you have a decision to make, don't you? Are you going to ignore it? Or are you going to kill the old you so that the new one can emerge? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had an idea so powerful, I mean, strong, that it simply wouldn't leave you alone? It just stayed in your mind constantly. You try to ignore it. You may tell yourself, hey, this is a lot. I'm not qualified for this. You may even tell yourself, if it's such a great idea, somebody else probably already did it. But what if that idea was never yours to begin with? What if it was placed there by God? Today, I'd like to talk to you about something incredibly powerful, something that's so clear for me now, it seems silly that I didn't get it over the years. Our thoughts really do become things. Before we talk about thoughts becoming things, I want you to think about something equally important. Looking up here, I'll just read the top line. When your time here on earth is almost gone, will you be certain you lived the life God planned for you? Are you living life intentionally, or do you just drift through life? Do you act on the ideas placed in your heart, or do you ignore them? Last question, do you use your gifts or bury them inside? Every one of us begins right here on the left as a little baby. We grow and we have choices. Eventually, God willing, we live through life at different stages, and we reach the stage all the way to the right, which I guess once we arrive there, we're considered elderly. I guess as I say that, technically, I'm probably in that category right there. But anywhere along the line in this path, we've got to decide, will I drift through life and live a life of mediocrity, or am I going to live life on purpose? You've got to make that decision. If you think about thoughts becoming things, every single thing that exists in our world today started as a thought. Every building, every company, every book, even the one that's still in your head, is a thought now. But if it's become a reality, that's where it started. Everything begins with a thought. And many of them are not random. Sometimes these thoughts, I like to believe, are divine nudges from God. God freely gives any of us wisdom if we're just willing to ask for it. And he also plants a purpose in each and every one of us. And it's our job just to figure out what it is. But having the thought alone does absolutely nothing. You could be sure I was going to say that. You've got to act on it. In fact, as I think about it, several years ago, I had an idea just like this, and it wouldn't leave me alone. It was uncomfortable. It was a lot bigger than me, and I kept thinking, who am I to do something like this? I've never done anything like this before. I had the same self-doubts many of you have when you're faced with a situation like this, and something like this pops into your head, and you're not sure what to do with it. And then I realized something. Sometimes the ideas that make us the most uncomfortable are the ones God's asking us to act on. Why else would this be such a recurring thought? Part of me, I have to admit, hoped the idea would just go away, but it didn't. So eventually I did something about it. Success is a simple math problem. Just reading that top line, that brings the whole thing together. It's definitely simple, but it's not easy. It requires work. Thought plus desire. Desire is the fuel that keeps you moving through things when they get difficult, and they will. Desire alone is not enough. Obviously, that's got to be combined next with faith. It's just like a recipe or a math problem, as I mentioned. Faith is believing what you can't see is actually impossible. Faith without works is dead. Does that sound familiar? And of course, it goes without saying, after faith, you're going to need the confidence. Confidence to trust God didn't just place this idea inside you by accident. Now for the final pieces, you're going to have to add some discipline, and then you're going to have to take action consistently. Even when motivation fades or you run into an obstacle and you get stuck, you can't give up. You've got to keep going. You've now got the formula for success. Well, remember that idea I just told you about, the one that I couldn't get rid of? That idea eventually became a book. I'd love to tell you that I'm just so smart with all this biblical success knowledge inside of me that I decided to write about it. But the truth is, I struggled with the same thoughts that many of you have for such a long time. And then one day I got up I was actually thinking about something totally different. I get up about 5 o'clock every morning, put on my coffee, uh, got into the office, and this thought was just pounding in my head. It was a thought for a product that I thought about for years and figured, wow, you know what? Today I'm going to go for it. So I got online, and the first thing I did was search. And you can probably imagine what I'm going to tell you. Somebody else had already thought of it. Somebody stole my idea. You see, I was right to procrastinate. It's already done. Or was I? I decided to research the company. And what I found was this company was only a couple of years old. And with a little bit more research, I learned that this company was doing several $1 million a year with my idea. Whew, I really missed that opportunity. I had been thinking about it or being nudged by God, if that's where it came from, for years. So that very morning, when I realized I had snoozed again, I made a decision right then and there that I'm going to start writing this book. That was another nudge that I'd been ignoring. This information, I got to tell you, came to me so easily, I have to admit. I may be the author of record, but the words weren't coming from me. They were coming from somewhere or somewhere else. It was too easy. Long story short, it became an Amazon bestseller in 3 different categories the day I launched it. Overnight, it broke all kinds of records. And then, of course, I shouldn't say of course, but something unexpected happened. Amazon banned it. Not only did they not like the title, they didn't even like my name. They never paid me a dime. I went back and forth with them, which felt like probably 2 or 3 weeks trying to understand what it was that I had done wrong. I had already checked the legality of the title. That's perfectly fine. My name is my name. So, I mean, what what could possibly be the problem? And then I realized if the enemy was willing to fight something this hard, it's got to have the potential to help a lot of people. Maybe it does matter. So I decided to fight for it. And that's when I decided to start a coaching company based on the principles of success that were revealed in my book. Now, before one of you says it, this isn't prosperity gospel. I'm not trying to be a preacher. Success is just not tangible things or money. It's clearly a win in all 3 phases: mind, body, and spirit. The whole enchilada, as they'd say. I've also created several training courses that offer lots of free resources to help anyone not only find their God-given purpose, but create a step-by-step plan of action to actually help you achieve your own personal goals. Enough about that. I'll come back to that in a little bit. But my point is, I got very excited about this. This company gives me an opportunity to help people and to actually help them get to their happy place and to feel their emotions and feel their pains and push them through the struggles and help them succeed. So much so that this mission is now the next and best phase of my life. When God plants a seed in your mind, He's inviting you to build something. Even if it scares you, you've got to have the courage to, just stand up and push through it. Even if you're rejected by people, if the whole world pushes back. All right, now I'm getting a little dramatic, but you get my point. The question is not whether the idea came from God. The question is, now that you've got the thought in your head, what are you going to do with it? Now let's get into the next section and bring this framework all together. Okay, for starters, you're going to need most likely to acquire some specialized knowledge. Many people stop, or worse yet, never even get started when they realize they don't know what to do. Lack of knowledge is not a stopping point. It's just an opportunity to look to where you can find that information. It simply leads you to your next assignment. Every meaningful goal requires learning something new. Sometimes you have to, and I'm just going to read the slide. You've got to hire a coach or a mentor. You've got to read some books to get the information. You're going to definitely have to develop some new skills. And then ask a lot of questions. That's how we learned as little kids. They don't ever stop asking questions. We get a little older and we stop. So go ahead and keep asking questions. If you look at the logo to the right there, after I had gotten out of the car business and COVID basically took me out of that, and then we had a few years where I just hung out, I decided I need to do something and wanted to start a solar company. Well, I had no idea about anything about solar. I didn't know the first place to start. I had been in the car business for so many years, I didn't know anything else. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to go work for some other company and learn the business and take my time figuring it all out before I made my move? Well, at probably, I don't know, I guess my early 50s or mid 50s, I'm too old for that. Let's find another option. Would I just do a lot of research until I thought I knew what I was doing and then just go out and learn through trial and error? Again, good thought, but most likely too expensive, and I didn't want to learn things the hard way and drag this on. I just wanted to get to the point where I knew what I was doing. I could go out and make some money. So I decided to do what lots of folks do. I decided to pay for speed. I hired a coach that was already in the solar business. He was already successful, and I paid him to teach me how he did it. He was doing well over $100 million a year, and he'd only been in the business for a few short years. I mean, this guy was like the wonder boy in solar, and might might very well still be. I've been unplugged for a bit, but he was definitely qualified to teach me. In fact, I paid him a little over $40,000 to learn his step-by-step process, telling me from the first thing to do to the next thing to do to the next thing to do. He basically laid out a program to make it so simple. Uh, Everything was right in front of me. That education saved me so much time and expenses. I'm not going to tell you I built a 9-figure business, but I can tell you we hit $1 million relatively quickly, and we were well on our way until I'll say a few years back, solar became, in my opinion, not such a great investment, and some changes were made, so I moved into a different direction. Let's go ahead and move on to the next piece of the puzzle. No one builds something great alone. One of the most powerful forces for success is a mastermind group. A mastermind group is a group of people that are going to share the same common vision. They get together and challenge one another, support one another, and most importantly is hold each other accountable. Now, Napoleon Hill called this a mastermind. And connecting that with scripture, it would only make sense. If you look here in Matthew 18:20, it shows how when people come together with faith, purpose, and accountability, ideas turn into action. God often delivers big visions through small groups. Think about that. If God is present when people gather in prayer, wouldn't it make sense to assume why wouldn't he also be present when people gather with purpose? When we gather in order to build something good or gather to serve others? Now, this one I'm just going to read. You need 3 kinds of people in your life. It's my opinion, but if you can think of a fourth, my ears are wide open. You need someone ahead of you as a mentor to kind of take you by the hand and lead you in the right direction. You're going to need someone beside you, which would be your mastermind group or partner or accountability partner. And you're going to need someone behind you, someone that you can actually help when the time comes and do your part to pay it forward. Protecting your greatest assets, time and health. Isn't that the truth? One guarantee is that we all have is that we will all certainly die someday. Not to sound morbid, but that's a reality. We just don't know when. Time is the only asset that can't be replaced. As every second passes us, it's gone. It's not coming back. Not knowing when we'll take our last breath means we should certainly cherish and make the best of every single moment. Best way to do that, in my opinion, most likely is to start with making sure your health is 100%. Before any success can be sustained long term, we've got to protect our health. Health in 3 ways: body, mind, and spirit. As far as your body's concerned, you're going to need the energy, the strength, and the discipline to go through life. When your mind comes into play, you're going to need clarity, the ability to focus and to remain positive. And then, of course, spirit goes without saying. You're going to need a strong connection to God. Focus, determination. Now, here's where you got to beware of the enemy. He's going to do his best, as well as we all know all good things come from God. All the obstacles and all the stress and all the stumbling blocks come from the enemy. He's going to do his best to distract us and help us drift by possibly entering the unfortunate procrastination habit, self-doubt, putting negative thoughts in our mind, continue to tell us we're just not worthy, we're not qualified. In fact, the more capable you are of achieving this goal, especially if it's going to better humanity, yourself, or people around you, the better you're capable of doing, the more the enemy's going to fight you. Be conscious of this and don't let them steal your dreams. Gratitude and service. Gratitude certainly shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance. When we recognize how blessed we already are, we operate differently. The line blessed by the best comes to mind. I've seen t-shirts and bumper stickers that say that. It's just simple. However, being grateful should lead to something greater, much greater than that, and that would be service. Service to others is true success, not measured by how much we accumulate. It's measured by how many lives we impact. The greatest leaders ever have all been servants of one way or another, and the greatest wealth is influence used for good. We're all called to serve each other, and I have to say it's better and easier to serve or help when you've got the financial resources to do so. Don't you agree? You know the old saying, find a need and fill it? That's a true pathway to success. Now think about this. Who could we model? In fact, who was the greatest leader that ever walked on this earth? Let's go ahead and try to model him. Live a life of no regrets. One day, again, God willing, if we live that long, we're going to get to this part in our life and we're going to be sitting possibly on a porch somewhere just thinking about life as we went through it. And our question's not going to be, how comfortable was I? Our questions might sound a little bit like this. Did I become the person I was capable of becoming? Did I act on the ideas placed on my heart? Did I serve others? Did I use the gifts I was given? Or did I allow fear to keep me from trying? It's important to pay attention because a thought placed in your mind could completely change the outcome of your life if you just follow that math program and ultimately take action. I believe when your thoughts align with God, your actions become purposeful. Bringing it all home. Now, this is something I also took from James Malinchak and just switched it up a little bit to make it, make it fit my ultimate goal. Ultimate goal for all of us in one way or another, however you describe it, is going to come down to one word. And that's it right there. Freedom. I'm just going to read the slide real quick. My ultimate goal. Obviously, time freedom and financial freedom are the two biggest things we need in order to live the life that we want without anything stopping us. Everything that I do falls into two different categories. It's either going to move me closer to my goal of being free, or it's going to move me further away from it. So you've got to be conscious of every move and every thought so that you put them in the right place. If you look at the things that help you move closer, once you think and have the thoughts, you have the desire to do something about it. And real important here, you've got to believe it's possible. You've got to decide to make a decision, learn what you need to learn, make a plan of action, actually take action, be persistent, serve others, and you achieve your goal. On the flip side, if you sit back and wonder, oh, what am I going to do with this? And you just drift, the seconds are going to pass. The days, the weeks, the months are going to pass. The years are going to pass. You're going to get to that rocking chair and look back and think about all the regrets, unfortunately, that you might have. The fear of not trying, the procrastination, the excuses, the distraction, negativity. You quit more often than you like. I don't think there's anything wrong with quitting if you're quitting something bad to do something better. But then comparing yourself to others, ultimately living a life on this right side of the equation is going to lead to a life of regrets. We can all describe success in a bunch of different ways. My ultimate description is right there at the bottom. I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want. That's my true definition. Now, here's something I'd like to share with you. Lastly, this, I hope, or I shouldn't say hope, this will definitely become part of my legacy. I intend to eventually build a community called the Success Center. This is going to be a place where young people aging out of foster care can live safely for a little bit longer if necessary in order to obtain more life skills and specialized training to just help them transition into the real world without, getting out there and unfortunately not being prepared. A lot of these kids after their 18th birthday end up in very dark places. I hope to provide a place that avoids that, a place that they can live beyond that birth date necessarily to just further discover their purpose and prepare to live a successful life. This place, after first of all just helping a lot of these kids, is going to turn into a place that could become a safe haven for those that are experiencing homelessness, especially families. They'll be able to regain their confidence in a safe environment while learning new life skills prior to moving back into society. A place that gives them an opportunity to transition back with hope and dignity. The Success Center is going to be a place of new beginnings and second chances. And I just looked at that picture as I had AI created, and I thought about the perfect place for it would be in a mountain area, maybe in Georgia or one of the Carolinas, Tennessee, somewhere up there, where you've got some different seasons. We could put a bunch of cabins around a lake, a few buildings, some areas for activity, and we could just build a place that's going to be magnificent and help, hundreds and thousands of people, as I'm already a long distant past memory in some lines. I want something like that to go global and to just keep moving. Now, this I'm just going to read. I'm currently putting together a free online coaching series based on the principles in my book. It's absolutely free. It's not going to have any cost attached to it. This is for people who know that faith and success were never meant to be separated. Again, there's no pressure, just growth. If you're interested, this next screen will give you my contact information, give you an opportunity to reach out to me if you want to send me a quick email. I've got a bunch of free resources that I'd like to share with you. A couple of them are worksheets that you can work on your own to help get through discovering your God-given purpose, or at least confirming it if you're already in the right place. There's a common values list exercise that helps you put all your most important values right in front of you. There's one I named, How Do I Want to Look, Feel, Live, and Be? That's really fun. And then get real and establish your why. We've all heard plenty of other speakers talk about the why. Why do we do this? Why do we do that? There's a reason for all of it. If you have a big dream stuck inside of you and you want to transition, now's the time. You've got no more excuses. You heard one more person tell you all of some of most likely the same things. If you'd like to take things a step further, send me an email. Let me know you'd like to book a strategy call, and we can get on a Zoom together and go over some of your thoughts, some of your dreams, and I'll help you put together a plan to actually accomplish it. What I'd like to do now is just read something here at the end that I read a few days ago before I decided to put this program together. I don't know who wrote it because it didn't say anonymous either. It was just some words that kind of struck me I'd like to share with you. When your time here on earth is almost gone, may you know that you did more than just chase success. May you know you answered the ideas God placed in your heart and used them to change the lives of others. Because in the end, the greatest success is a life well served. Thank you